Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all of you, whichever part of the world you reside in. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar on reimagining volunteering. My name is Shakti Saran, and I'm the founder of a think tank called Shaktify. Shaktify's vision is to embrace a culture of oneness and to live in harmony with Mother Nature. And our mission is to empower change makers. Volunteering has played a large role in my own journey. Some of the experiences I've had as a volunteer have been life-changing. Volunteering has a significant role to play in the development of any community, nation, and our larger world. Yet, most of us are accustomed to think about development in terms of economic growth and in the context of GDP numbers. Because volunteering is founded on the principle of free will and is typically sans remuneration, it remains less visible. But this does not mean it's not a major force. Its benefits can cascade from local to a systemic level. The objectives of this webinar are to explore how volunteering programs can be made more accessible to create a widespread volunteering culture and inquire how volunteering programs can be redesigned to generate greater social impact. I'm delighted to have with us today Ikuma Saga and Vijaya Balaji. Ikuma-san and Vijaya, welcome to this webinar. Thank you. I'm honored to have you on this webinar. Ikuma Saga is the founder and CEO of Service Grant Japan, a leading nonprofit organization in the field of pro bono volunteering. He has been in the pro bono space for close to 2 decades. He's also the co-founder and president of Earth Day Money, is an author, and a visiting professor at Senshu University Graduate School of Economics. Vijaya Balaji is the CEO and Managing Director at Toolbox India, a pro bono services provider. She's also the founding partner at Social Lens Consulting and serves on the board of Apna Le, an urban poverty alleviation NGO. She has served as an advisory member for India at 75 and is an ecosystem knowledge head for the Better World Initiative program at GenPact. I also want to welcome our audience today. I'm pleased to share that we have had over 250 registrations from 22 countries besides India, from Australia to Argentina, and from Japan to Canada. We will get the ball rolling with a few introductory questions that I will pose to Ikuma-san and Vijaya. We will then conduct an audience poll, following which we will get into the main conversation, which should last for about a half an hour. Thereafter, we will open up the webinar to audience questions. We will close the webinar 1 hour and 15 minutes from our start time. Before we get started, I want to make a few announcements. So if any of you have questions to pose to our panelists, and we will have time for Q&A, please note that please post it directly in the Q&A box. Please do not post your questions in the general chat, as it is going to be unmonitored. I also want you to be aware that closed captions have been enabled for this webinar. If you would like to download a copy of the transcript or the chat, you're welcome to do so before you exit. So I'm now going to get started with Ikuma-san and Vijaya. So once again, thank you both. And this is just a set of preliminary introductory questions. So Ikuma-san, I'm going to start with you. Tell us about your journey. What made you set up Service Grant Japan, and what does your outfit do?
Hello, this is Ikuma Saga. I'm from Tokyo, and thank you for listening. And yeah, my journey in volunteering is actually started 20 or more than 20 years ago. I started a community currency program in 2001 while I was working in the corporations. I was used to be a researcher at the Japan Research Institute, and I was working. And while working, I started a volunteering community currency program. Then I came across a kind of difficulty of running on small organizations. Then I came across pro bono idea in United States when I made a research in the nonprofit in the United States, and I was kind of shocked to see the pro bono, the concept of pro bono, and then I kind of imported the idea to Japan and started to adaptation to the Japanese society, and then I didn't imagine it took me about 20 years in this field, but time flies, and so now I'm here. I'm talking with you. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ikuma-san. Vijaya, tell us about your journey. What made you set up Toolbox India Foundation? And tell us about the nature of your work.
Well, firstly, Shakti, thank you so much for having me here today. Um, and a small correction, I'm not the founder of Toolbox, I
Right.
went on to set up the operations in India. And if I were to just very quickly sort of capture, what it was 14 years ago, I think it's been one of the most inspiring, unexpected work accidents of my life, because to be very honest, at the time when Toolbox India was being set up, the idea of leveraging volunteers for skilled volunteering
Yes.
was still a little bit nascent, right?
Right.
And the early days were tough. And I know in the audience, I just very quickly looked at some of the attendees. There are organizations and founders who are very kind, to allow us to actually sort of they took a chance on us. We talk about volunteering, but honestly, volunteering won't exist if you don't have organizations who are willing to sort of allow you to engage with them,
Right.
to place their faith in us and trust in us. um, so it was, I think the early days were tough. You weren't always very sure, but we're still standing here 14 years later. So it has been nothing but inspiring and full of learnings, Shakti.
Fabulous, fabulous. I still remember the interaction that I had with you when I had just, before I was in the middle of transitioning to the social sector, before I had any opening in the social sector, and that preliminary conversation with you was, so useful and really inspiring. So thank you, thank you. So Vijaya, whilst you're on, can you also just tell us what does volunteering mean to you? If you could just very briefly tell us, what does volunteering mean to you personally?
So I think, volunteering has different contours to it, right? It's also doing good acts of society, doing good,
Right.
bringing back kindness, into society. Um it is to be part of something that is so much more larger than you, Shakti. Okay, so volunteering has many contours and perspectives to it. In the context of Toolbox, which I would like to restrict myself to, I think I have really seen volunteering being one of the most optimal ways of supporting social purpose organizations who need help, who don't have the resources to
Okay.
afford, uh, you know, paid services.
Yes.
That is a gap. If it is done well and if it is done right, can really be the most optimal way uh, of capacity building to support nonprofit organizations.
All right.
For me, that's
Excellent.
what it is. Not to take away from anything, I think every act of volunteering requires commitment, and it's not the degree of commitment, because whether you're going to clean a beach or you're going to work on a business plan, you need to put in time, effort, and
And your
bring your
heart in. You have to put your
yes,
heart in also, correct?
yes,
All right.
yes.
Excellent. Let me ask the same question to you, Ikuma-san. What does volunteering mean to you personally?
Yeah, for me, I think the volunteering is the gateway for everyone and everything. I think for the organization, it is a gateway to meet new people, new volunteers, people, and also for the volunteer side, it is a gateway to know society and to get connected with other people, or to learn a lot of things about society. So it's a gateway.
All right. And you have, such tremendous experience in, in this space. I remember our early interactions, as part of the Global Pro Bono Network. Yeah, so this remarkable contribution that you have made, Ikuma, you and Vijaya too. So we're going to continue this discussion, but what we're going to do is, before we get to our main conversation, we're going to conduct a short audience poll. So this audience poll has 3 questions in it. I'm going to start the poll in just a half a minute. But I just want everyone who's listening to me right now to be aware that there are 3 questions in it. The first question is open to everyone. Yeah, everyone who's on this, attending this webinar today. And the second and third questions are meant for people who have volunteered in the past or who are currently volunteering. So, without any further delay, I'm going to initiate that poll. All right, let's see how these questions, these answers have shaped up. So the first question is, please tell us about your volunteering experience. Checkmark all that are applicable. 60% of our audience today has volunteered previously. 32% is volunteering today. 29% wishes to volunteer in the future. 56% of our audience is associated with an NGO or social purpose organization that leverages volunteers. And 27% of our audience is associated with or work for a service organization that manages volunteership pro bono programs. The second question was, please tell us how you volunteer. And 41% support or have supported community programs like planting saplings, beach cleanups, etc. About 9% have supported disaster recovery and resilience building programs. 65%, wow, have supported teaching and have imparted learning. There's 38% of our audience that has supported or continues to support capacity building projects for NGOs. And 26% of our audience supports social sector organizations by serving as an advisor, board member, trustee. And 15% of our audience lends time for advocacy and public policy purposes. And then the last question was a single choice question. And this was 30% of our audience said volunteering is my way of serving or giving back to the communities I am associated with. 45% say that volunteering is my means for bringing about the change I wish to see in the world. Interesting. About 6% of our audience feels that volunteering helps me in understanding social dynamics essential for the progress and sustainability of my organization's mission or business. And 18% have mentioned that volunteering is an avenue for heightening my personal self-transformations. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end the poll. And I think there is an option to share results. So that has also been done. So walk you through this very quickly. All right, so that just gives us, a better sense of what volunteering means to our audience, the composition of our audience today, preferences. So now with that, we're going to get into the main part of our conversation. And I am going to start with you, Ikuma-san. Ikuma-san, can you share with us what are some of the key volunteering trends you are witnessing in Japan?
Okay, I have 2 points. The first point is, Japan or all the world is having a kind of an era of longevity. The lifetime is getting longer and longer, and so the people are more conscious about doing something different other than just working for corporations to get prepared for the longer life and fulfilling lifestyle. So people seeking out of the company and looking for some place to kind of work or do something or do something for communities. So these 6 years in these 5 6 years, people are getting more and more conscious about doing something new in community, and this is one thing. The other thing is actually the corporation. Corporation is also try to help the employees to do something. So the training for the senior people is changing, not just telling the how to make use of your money, but also how to make use of your energy or time or capacity. And so the corporation changing. Also, the corporation is having a more expectations on volunteering, not just to giving some corporate giving corporate social responsibility, but also they have a lot of expectations about their employees can get more, how can I say, a good sense of society, and that can give the corporation a chance to make innovations or maybe get a kind of good inspiration about new businesses, may even. So corporations having a more socially oriented these days. So they are promoting volunteers for the employees.
All right. So what you're saying is that corporations are getting more and more sensitized to what's happening in the larger environment, and they're getting more conscious of social dynamics, how that impacts their business.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons why you see the pro bono is flourishing pretty much very significantly.
Yeah, pro bono. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. Thank you for that, Ikuma-san. Vijaya, tell us about some of the volunteering trends that you're witnessing here in India.
So, Shakti, I'm actually going to talk from, sort of placing 2020 really as sort of the watershed moment when sort of COVID struck, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of things changed after that, right? And actually, the two trends which I want to talk about are sort of, I won't say contradictory, but they're actually very two different sides of, or two different positions, or two different varying trends that we're seeing. One is that we saw a lot more of sort of compassion, empathy sort of coming into civil society. Okay. Because COVID was a great leveler, right, Shakti?
Yes.
It was unexpected. It was a leveler. And so, what we've actually begun to see is there is definitely a rise, or there are increased levels of compassion, empathy, service orientedness, which therefore translates into a lot of community facing sort of volunteering that
Right.
people want to undertake.
Right.
What we've also seen, and very, very encouraging, is to see the Gen Zs who are often at the receiving end of a lot of criticism for a lot of reasons. But Gen Zs actually carry a very strong sense of purpose. Okay, they want.
Tell us more. Yeah, please go ahead.
And a lot of what they see around them matters to them. So whether it is the empathy towards animal welfare, to environment, they're very, very conscious about environment, sustainability, what sort of planet that they're going to continue to reside in. And these make, therefore, for very great volunteering potential if you know how to tap into it correctly. On the other side, on the flip side, what we've also seen is two things. People, post COVID, we've seen a lot of people move into hybrid working environments. So, typically people will tell you that there's some days of the week when the traffic is very high because people are coming into work that day. That's typically a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And so when people therefore look for opportunities which is also going to get them out of the house, and that's where field volunteering, engaging with communities, working on those kind of activities, whether it's in beach cleanups, deep plantation, urban lake restoration, those kind of things make they get people out. It's as much as volunteering. It's a social engagement. Companies get employees together who are otherwise working within the four walls of their house. But there's also a section of people who are like, you know what, I've been confined doing this. When the weekend comes, I want to travel. I want to do other things. So, it's interesting times. I won't say that volunteering has gone up or gone down. I think we have enough and more collective intent that's available. It's our job, therefore, to curate what it takes to draw that talent in.
Right, right. No, this is great to hear. I think what you said is very right, that COVID was a watershed moment for I think everyone. And Gen Z is expressing its desires to volunteer in very many ways now, and the concerns, the causes that they associated with,
Absolutely.
I think, is a cause for hope. So that
Yes.
is that. Yeah, thanks for bringing that out. That is, a really important point. So we're going to continue with this discussion. I'm going to move now to back to Ikuma-san, and Ikuma-san, you know. I come from a volunteering background myself. When I was at IBM, I engaged in a fair amount of volunteering, and I've also done pro bono, offered pro bono services at when I was at IBM. But now the question I have for you, and I also worked for a pro bono services provider. I was with Pixara Global for 5 years, and what I find is that most volunteering discussions focus on outputs and immediate outcomes for the cause of the beneficiary, the NGO. What the point that you brought about, that corporations want to commit time to social purpose organizations, right? But why is it that the narrative is weak on the inner development and the personal self-transformation of the volunteer? Why is it like lopsided? Why is there so much of a focus on the social purpose organization, but very little on the volunteer itself? Shouldn't it really be a combination of both, is my question to you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's a kind of also kind of a headache for me as well. Actually, as a social purpose organization, I also, or many social purpose organization maybe also applies, can put the biggest priority onto the social development, social problem solving, and the inner development of the volunteer side can be the secondary priority. So that is why that kind of aspect can be can yeah missed sometimes. Yeah, but yeah, so that's the
But in
point.
your work, Ikuma-san, in your work, is it a priority at all, the inner development of the volunteer?
Yeah, well, so not the actually, to be honest, it is not the priority for us actually. But in some program, like we work with corporations, and some corporations are um, uh, using the volunteer opportunity as a human development program, and then we will do a kind of reflection work or feedback work or internal uh, adaptation work. Then it will focus on the employees in the development as well. So
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your input. My idea in bringing this up was to see if there are ways and means by which volunteering can become a force multiplier. And there is another question coming up in a few minutes, which is related to this. But thank you for your response, Ikuma-san. It is encouraging. Yeah. So Vijay, I'm going to move to you. Now, see, you're on the board of Apna, which is urban poverty alleviation NGO. And, many nonprofits, and I have also, been associated with NGOs. I still continue to be. And many NGOs are now setting up, fundraising cells, people dedicated for raising funds. It's a It's a, right now, a very prominent topic in social sector circles.
Yes.
But why is it that many nonprofits don't have a dedicated role for volunteer management like they do for fundraising? Why is this the case? And what do NGOs need to do to attract and also effectively manage volunteers? It's a massive pool, latent pool. We're sitting on a treasure. Can you please throw some insight into this?
Okay, so I think, thank you, Shakti. I think it's a great question. I think the first part, I don't really have an answer. But I do know that, but that's also not fully true, because there's some great organizations here which have been built on, the backbone of volunteer support. One, I think we need to look at volunteering, sort of volunteer management, uh, with a little bit of structure into it. I mean, at Toolbox, we've had to do that, right? Uh, it's not enough to just say that there is intent out there. Channeling intent is very, very important. And, we talk about, is volunteering going to change? I feel that it's just not enough to get more and more volunteers. What you want to do is to have volunteer retention, like you have donor retention, Shakti. And I think what volunteers therefore appreciate, one is the first is the alignment of their intent to the cause. Sometimes the cause is not important. It really doesn't matter. I've had volunteers saying, Vijaya, it doesn't matter if it's education or livelihood or environment. I just want to, apply myself. But to channel intent, we also need to make the experience for them structured and seamless. So, which means that the the not so glamorous emotive part of volunteer engagement needs to be designed. You need to have calendars set in place. You need to be able to ensure that the volunteer has all that he or she needs at the time when they're setting out. Right from what to expect, what is the code of conduct, uh, what they should be prepared, how do they navigate. You need to put them through some sort of a sensitization and this thing it for them. On the other side, not any organization needs to recognize volunteers' time. Okay, and I think it's a two-way street. You cannot have volunteers coming from a place saying that, hey, I'm here, tell me what you need. That's sort of patronizing. And yet at the same time, nonprofits need to, I mean, I'm using the word nonprofits, but I mean any organization needs to recognize that here are people who are willing to give us their time. The fact that they show up on a Saturday morning, pushing away a swimming class or a golf game and saying that I'm going to be here to do. Leverage that. That's an opportunity for them. That interaction overall, there needs to be mutual respect and working on an even keel, where one is not sitting from, I'm here to give, and the other one is saying, I'm just here to receive. And look at a volunteer today as in terms of what they can do. Don't look today of what they can do for you tomorrow, because honestly, if a volunteer walks away with a fulfilling experience, you've got a supporter for life. Even if not a supporter for life, you'll have them for the next couple of years. And when they want to leave and say that, hey, you know what, I've done this and I want to go do base camp trekking to the Himalayas, let them exit with grace. Recognize them. Everybody, human spirit is built on seeking validation, Shakti, is it not? We keep talking about that, oh, Instagram, I got, all of us will go and check how many likes we got on an Instagram or a Facebook post or on LinkedIn. That is, let's just not deny it. We like it. Volunteers also need to be appreciated for what is being done. Yet at the same time, it is our job, whether we are an organization which manages volunteers, whether they are organizations which have a manager to manage all of this, you
Right.
need to drive intent and accountability. Volunteers need to know that. Don't waste somebody else's time by just showing up or coming in late. So I think the first principles of mutual respect and understanding, structure, simple, gentle reminders from the tactical to the overall
Right.
management, I think are very, very fundamental.
Right. Excellent. That is so insightful, Vijaya. Thank you very much. So what we've done in the last 15 minutes or so, we've tried to capture what are some of the forces that shape volunteering today. What are some of the key trends that we've seen? And we've had both Vijaya and Ikuma-san speak about this dimension. So now we're going to change tack a little bit, and we're going to speak about the future of volunteering and envisioning a bold future. So this is now a question for both of you, and whoever wishes to go first, welcome to do that. But both of you are pro bono service providers. Toolbox India as well as Service Grant Japan, and I myself have benefited considerably from a pro bono assignment. When IBM had seconded me. And so just for the benefit of our audience here today, pro bono is a form of volunteering that results in outputs that aid capacity building for an NGO. They are quite similar to management consultancy inputs for an NGO or for a social purpose organization. Now, the question for both of you is, when we look at the larger universe of volunteering and what the potential that volunteering holds, do you see any limitations of pro bono volunteering? If there is something, then I would just like you to unearth that and share with us. What do you see are the limitations of pro bono volunteering?
Can I go first, Shakti?
Yes, please, Vijay, go
Thank
ahead.
you. Again, a very, very relevant question, Shakti. And I talk in the context of Toolbox, right? I mean, I run Toolbox and I also run Social Lens. And one of the things I think pro bono is great. Pro bono can support small, um, no, when I say small, I mean limited periods of engagement, which can solve for some, pertinent, obstinate challenges that organizations have. Till date, Toolbox offers pro bono support laced in with a larger program that we run. But one of the things that we've realized over a period of time is that organizations need sustainable support, which pro bono at some point will not be able to. Because remember, we're building this on uh, a cadre of volunteers. Now, volunteers will come and they will go. They're not going to be there for perpetuity. And the aim is also for us to get organizations to start becoming a bit more independent, which then will require bringing in alternate mechanisms of more sustainable capacity strengthening of organizations. And I think that is something at the ecosystem level, funders have begun to recognize that, Shakti.
Yes.
So the relevance of pro bono can be challenged. I believe that its existence will continue as long as you sharply define what pro bono is going to do for an organization.
Right.
I'll stop here.
Yeah, thank you, Vijay. Very, very meaningful. Ikuma-san, I'd love to hear your views on this, on this question.
Yeah. Well, in my view, the needs of the organization side is unlimited, and also the kind of supply from the business side is also kind of unlimited. I think, and there are so many people who can help, but actually, the limitation for pro bono is how the role of connecting. So because the non-organization side, not all the organizations are used to get pro bono properly, I would say. It is difficult to kind of make a project or sort out a problem and which is suitable to make a project and to match the business people. So the intermediary like us is necessary, but our resources is also really limited. So there are, like in India, I know that about 3 million organizations in country, and we have like 500,000 organizations in Japan, and there are so many organizations, but we cannot cover every organizations. So the limitation is the connection is a kind of challenge, I think.
So please stay there, Ikuma-san. See, what Service Grant Japan does is that you help in capacity building of the social purpose organization, right?
Yeah.
So you deploy people from Japan's corporate sector, and they form teams, and then they are deployed to social purpose organizations. Sometimes you also work with local governments.
Yeah.
In building capacity for the organizations, what I'm trying to say is that, look, you have a pro bono that helps build capacity. So in a manner of speaking, it helps organizations do more of what they are good at or what they're currently doing, but without reassessing how their mission could be qualitatively being made more impactful. In my own experience, that is what has been missing in pro bono. What is your view on that? When you design a pro bono program, are you just looking at capacity building, or are you also then looking at ways and means by which the mission of that organization can be made more effective? It would be just very helpful if you can dwell on that a little bit.
Yeah. Also, we when we give support up to capacity building, we look at the mission, we look at the vision of the organizations. So that is very important. And also, well, in addition to that, we are well, for the pro bono workers, they get experience by doing pro bono, and after doing some time of pro bono, they have more experience in pro bono. And now we are giving a new program, educational program for the pro bono workers to learn how to connect the social sector and business sectors, and which we call social engagement opener, and that's a new kind of role for the society. And because the connection is problem right now, so we give an educational program to them, and to connect more and more people and social organizations now.
Right. So this point that you raised about making the connection is really very crucial. It's about because somebody from the corporate sector coming in and working for a social purpose organization really needs to be adequately equipped, adequately trained, adequately sensitized to the needs of the social sector. And what you're saying is that you're experiencing this as a need, and you are now devoting more time to this. Is my understanding correct? In making the connection.
That's great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So again, now there's another question. It is for both of you. And again, this is hearing from my own experience. You know, I did a pro bono assignment. I worked for a pro bono service provider. In your experience, how many of those who volunteer through your organization continue volunteering after their first stint? And I think, Vijaya, you have alluded to this. You said that organizations need sustainable support and not one-off. But isn't it the case that a lot of pro bono is focused on one-off? So are you able to throw light on what is it that needs to be done to how can programs be redesigned so that creates an incentive for a pro bono participant to maybe volunteer on her or his own? How do we build that culture of repeatability is my question to both of you.
So, Shakti, if I may go first,
Yes, please.
I think if I just go back to our own experience, right? I think it was. I think it's hard. I think to expect that you will have uh, pro bono support from the same volunteer for extended periods of time is not impossible, but it's definitely difficult. There's also the age factor. Okay, I think that's where I feel that one of the things we've seen is, typically senior corporate professionals who have stepped back from active corporate life, but bring a lot of wisdom. They bring a lot of experience, and that is a great group that can be channeled. We also need to remember that I think Ikuma-san brought up a very important point that longevity has increased, right? Where people are living longer, but people also want to lead fulfilling lives, Shakti.
Right.
And fulfillment comes for anybody when they feel that they have been of use in the service of somebody else. So that is something we need to recognize. Now, for the younger volunteers, I think we need to accept that they are spoiled for choice, right? Having said that, I've seen youngsters who are so involved with environment and animal welfare that they continue to do that. It's almost like a calling. But for all the others, they want to sort of balance this with a lot of the other things they do. And I think one of the things is I don't question the intent of the younger ones. And when I say the younger ones, I typically classify them in the ages, the 20s to the mid 30s, for whatever reasons they want to go to business school, they want to feel more purposeful beyond what they're already doing at work. And when they do it and they do it well, even if it's for one time and they've added value, I think those are wins which we need to recognize and accept, right? So I
Right.
think it's important for us to see the like the persona of the volunteer. What is it that, where are they? What is the time? What is it that they're looking for? Will give us that opportunity to create longer engagements with some not so longer engagements with others. And maybe some of them will volunteer with us for a year or so. That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
So you have mechanisms for bringing in this feedback after every gathering this feedback after.
Yes, we do.
All
We
right.
do. And I think what we've seen is the older group, the older age group, um, they've always readily put up their hands and said that we love what this is. It doesn't take too much out of them. It gives them the opportunity to leverage all that wealth of learning and experience that they bring,
Right.
wisdom that they carry, and it makes for great interactions, I must say, Shakti.
All right. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Ikuma-san, do you have a view on this? Can you?
Yes, in case of service in Japan, the repeat rate is approximately like 30 to 40%. So
Uh-huh.
some people really like it, and so do it twice or three times, or sometimes 10 times. So they
Okay.
are kind of a junkie of pro bono, and that is a good thing. But still, we are not pushing that way only. So it is okay, but we would like to open up for the new people also. So we are welcoming new people coming in also. And we are also promoting that the experienced pro bono worker to go to the next something. Yeah, like for example, the social engagement opener is one option, but also the pro bono is a good chance to get acquainted with the nonprofit organization. So if they like that beneficiary organization, then he or she can go to the organization and give some both services or kind of long-term volunteering there, or even work for them as well. So we sometimes get news from the ex pro bono workers, and he or she is working in the no-profit organization, and we are so delighted to hear that. So so repeating twice or three times is actually we are promoting, because just one pro bono is only one organization, but two or three organizations you get a kind of sense of social sector. So yeah, so that's what we are doing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And Ikuma-san, quickly, is there anything you'd like to share about emerging models for volunteering? What's the future like? What are we going to be seeing? Anything that comes to your mind?
Okay, thank you very much. One model of pro bono, that is kind of originally invented in Japan is called Mama Bono. It is pro bono.
What is this?
Yes.
What's Mama Bono?
Yeah, it is a pro bono activity done by mothers who is having a maternity leave from the company or who quit the job because of the childbirth.
Okay.
And the but actually the project is, how can I say, more, I would say, energetic by the for the workers, and because they well the the reason why we studied that is actually many mothers who is taking a maternity leave has a lot of anxiety to go back to work, and they feel like they are kind of separated from the world, and they lose the sense of working, and they cannot go back to the work uh, uh, as before, and so they are really nervous about going back to work. But actually, they are really capable, and so if they do something like work through pro bono, they get back the sense of work, and also they can find a sense of joy of work, and also meet the other kind of colleague in the same situation. And so so that is a very good chance to empower the mothers.
All right. I wonder what the to-be mothers would think of that, but it's a very interesting, an idea that you've tabled here today. It's the first time I'm hearing of something like this, but that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Vijay, I have one question for you, and then we will open it up for audience questions. And we've been seeing that in the context of SDGs, SDG 17, which speaks about, partnerships. There's so much that that can be done, and volunteering has not really come out very visibly in the entire SDG scenario and the UN's global goals. So my question is if we have to create a volunteering culture, make that more widespread, how can other countries replicate national volunteering programs like the Peace Corps? Yeah, the Peace Corps is a very established, well received, volunteering program. But why is it that there's hardly any other countries in the world, hardly any other that have tried to replicate that? So, and can something like that help us with the larger SDG story? What are your views on this?
That's a toughie. I think firstly, Shakti, we we do see larger institutions coming together, but only at times of something when there's a sort of something which is almost like on a disaster scale, right? You will see whether it is peacetime keeping armed forces, you will see civil society organizations, citizen welfare groups, smaller civil society organizations, people groups, Rotary, Lions, local chapters, all of them coming together. Because what really unites people to support, and volunteering, so I'm just going with the word support here, is when there is tragedy which is of a tantamount nature. Now, yet at the same time, for us to bring in sustained uh, engagement on causes at scale calls firstly for driving attention to that need of that continuous monitoring. So today you say there is a Wayanad, today's news talks about Wayanad landslides, right? And immediately you will find 50 donation campaigns which are running. There will be people who will support. What happens afterwards, right? How do you ensure that, let's say, like you have disaster readiness, you had civil society which was engaged like a task force to do that? Because COVID did that. To
Yes.
this day, you have groups like Humankind, Caremongers, which are, continuing to exist. So it's not that you can't bring people together. People will come together, but that cause has to be so large that it drives people to do that. How do we sort of make that happen? Talks about building campaigns which are at a national level, and then to really have some amount of structures behind it. And I go back to India at 75. If India at 75 finally became a reality, we had Professor Prahlad who spoke, CK Prahlad, who spoke about it to Indian CEOs in Washington. You then had Indian companies come together with CII to make this happen. A
Yes.
bunch of us came on board to do this pro bono. But to
Right.
keep it sustained over a period of time, there needs to be a constant way to campaign and communicate and engage. Otherwise, it will not come together.
Mm. All right. And that is a tough one because pro bono, by the very nature of it, it's a public service. It is happening voluntarily. But maybe the very fact that we have corporations who are interested in pro bono work, it could be an assignment that you could do for one of the governments. I don't know to what extent.
And I think we need to think of some kind of incentivizing mechanisms which is not monetized, right?
Yeah.
See, if you've been part of a active service campaign on disaster relief, on reconstruction of villages in the aftermath of landslides or earthquakes or something,
Right.
it's got to count. That public service which you undertake should allow you to, I don't want to go with the word benefit, but it has to count for something. We all seek that, and I there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't. If we could find ways, I'm not talking about monetizing it.
Yes.
It could. We have to think on those lines.
Right. All right. I'm sure there's many possibilities. The very fact that both of you have come this far in your journey is just so encouraging and so heartening. And I'm sure as we go along with with conversations like these, there could be many more doors that would open. So we're just going to move now to the Q&A part of the of this webinar, and I have to share that. As a part of this registration form, registrants were given the option to suggest a topic of their choice, and also, a question if in case anybody needed to pose a question to a panelist. And we received an overwhelming response. The number of questions in the Q&A box today are relatively mild, but what came in a few in number, but what came in as part of the registration forms is like a really very large list. So I picked out a few questions, and I'm going to pose these to you. So since we've spoken a lot about pro bono, that'll be my first question. Then I'm going to move on to other questions that have been posed. So this is a question that has come from Sangeeta Shishoria of Akshay Patra Foundation. And her question is, how do we convince more corporates for engaging themselves into volunteering and pro bono? So what do you feel? Both of you, work extensively with corporations. How do you bring more corporations on board? Right now, it's only the more progressive, enlightened corporations who are thinking of pro bono. But what about how we're expanding the net? What does one need to do?
Ikuma-san, would you like to go first, please?
Okay. Me? Yeah. Okay. Well, it is difficult to convince the corporations, especially from our side. But again, the market or the trend of market or like ESG or this trend is actually pushing the corporation to do something. And we now have in Japan one of the very big economic kind of a group of corporations starting to discussion of having a kind of a massive volunteering campaign. And I don't know it will realize or not, but they are discussing that. So the important thing is we shouldn't miss that trend. sometimes trends is coming, but sometimes it can go on. So we should catch the trend and try to accept as much as possible. But they actually requires a big size, I think, sometimes. I mean, so far before we had a lot of difficulty getting like only 2 people, 5 people, and small number of people. But sometimes once they started to think about it, they ask us like 1,000 people or 10,000 people at one time, and sometimes. So we have to be ready to host them, and that's a big challenge. But it's good to think about how we can host them.
Thank you. Thank you. Vijaya,
I
would
think
you
I
like to
just
add?
add two
Yeah,
lines to
please.
what Ikuma-san has already said. I think one is, Shakti, I think there are a lot of corporates who recognize the importance of volunteering as part of their larger business mission. There's a social business mission, and then there's a corporate business mission, and
Yes.
they recognize the points of convergence. Having said that, I think driving corporate employee volunteering is tough, right? One needs to therefore look at providing employees with an entire gamut of options to choose from. There are facts around business cycles, quarterly business pressures. So you have to really co-opt strategic business heads when you sort of design volunteering programs, and they can't be seen as something that the HR or the L&D or the CSR teams do. The business teams, the business heads need to sort of work with them. Uh, we've run a couple of corporate volunteering programs. I think the intent is high. I see a lot of corporations who are keen to leverage their business intelligence for the cause of greater good, right? And you then lace it with other acts of goodness, be it blood donation, tree plantation, whether they want to look at supporting at a community level, they are there. I think it's always going to be a mix of a day long of volunteering to a hackathon to a 3 months engagement or something more, from strategic to tactical. And if one is able to really sort of look at that, I think it's possible.
All right, that is very helpful about involving business teams itself, right? You have to go beyond HR and CSR and getting business involved. So this essentially what you're saying is that how do you really make this mainstream? And I think that's the direction in which this whole pro bono movement is moving. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, I'm going to progress to some larger, broader questions. We're going to open up the whole universe of volunteering here. There's a question from Vijay Bhatia, who's asking, how does one change perceptions about volunteering? How does one make it a part of a systemic change? So it's somewhat related to the earlier question. So I'm going to repeat it. How does one make it part of a systemic change required to build empathy? Yeah, it is two people who are involved in this. It's a combined questions from two people. There's Geeta Philip and Vijay Bhatia, who have posed this question. So please share your take on this.
Okay, I'm just going to take a stab at it and then hand it over to Ikuma-san and you as well, Shakti. I'd love to hear
All
from
right.
you as well. So
Okay.
one is, I think, so you want to talk about mainstreaming in it, right? I think my first thing is, and this is something that I've always told a lot of my corporate clients, that, you know what, is there a way that in a business quarter you can sort of allow for 2 days or one business day for a volunteer to work while on the clock, and not something that necessarily will require for them to take out a weekend to do it. I mean, those models are there. The Tata Pro Engage model is brilliant. They have everything from volunteering on your desk to actually taking a sabbatical for reconstruction of sites which have been affected by natural disasters and so on. So I think so I'll first talk from the corporation's perspective, right? So in any company, if you want to sort of bring in a larger volunteering culture, you must have to lead by example.
Right.
So it has to percolate from top down. because we
Yes.
do have a follower syndrome. You need to make it so much part of the corporate culture and then say, it's
Yes.
just one day, but make
Yes.
that one day count. Whatever you choose to do,
Yes.
give people that opportunity and not say you have to do only 1, 2, 3, 4. You have a charity you support, you want to go work with 50 children, teaching them the basic of numeracy for one
Yeah.
day. We will sign that off, go do it. So that is the first thing to do. Then looking at other civil society, because at Toolbox, we work with people in their individual capacity, right? So somebody who wants to sign up and to do it with us, I go back to that earlier point. You need to make it seamless. You need to make it, for the lack of a better phrase, you need to make it easier for them to be able to come and volunteer and give us their time. I think there's no getting away from it. People can challenge saying that, oh, you know what? As a social purpose organization, we are already doing so much. Are you saying therefore that we need to cater to volunteers? That's not what I'm saying. But somewhere these two forces have to come together so that uh, you can, people want to come back and do it. Because I think we live in times where people definitely uh, I'd like to believe, and maybe I'm seeing this differently, but there is definitely more compassion and empathy. It is there. Whether it is social media which is promoting it, whether it is influencers who are promoting it, or whether we've all been witness to seeing something very unexpected with COVID. I think it has changed, and not just COVID. Look at the number of disasters and wars that we're
Yes.
constantly seeing, Shakti. But
Yes.
the fact to also remember is that it's also hard for human beings to have continued empathy in the face of constant disasters and tragedies that they see. That's the other
Yes.
thing. So then people want to move to happy places and not want to think about this. Finally, volunteering at the base of it is all about human behavior, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we need to recognize that.
Yes. So two things that come to my mind. One is the use of storytelling. And I think, when you said lead by example, I think that is really very crucial. But uh, storytelling is now coming into the limelight. I'm just very happy to see that. And I think pro bono gives everybody, whoever is involved in a pro bono program or any volunteering program, a tremendous chance to, convey that story. And I think a story is a great way of worming. It, finds its way into somebody's heart far much more easily than giving, knowledge or, a discourse. Yes. So, and I also heard Ikuma-san saying that uh, much of his work is now really in the connection part, in how do you connect the corporate sector employee to be sensitive to what's happening in a different realm. And I think that is something which will be very crucial for empathy building, for compassion building, right? So I think we're sort of clear on that. I'm just mindful of the time, so I have maybe another 2 or 3 quick questions, and then we will wrap up. So there is a question that has come from uh, yeah, I think so there's 2 other questions that I'm going to pose to you, and then we will, sort of wrap up. Yeah. And this is so question uh, on from Dr. Prahalatan. How to increase skill volunteering 10x in India in the next few years? So it's it's but many people have asked this question about scale, and we've also touched upon it in our conversation. But do you have any final concluding thoughts on this?
So this is Dr. Prahlad Nathan from Bhumi, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yes, I think
Yes,
so,
I'm
correct.
not sure if he's here in the audience, but he's somebody whom I greatly admire. Um, so okay, I'll just go back to a very simple example, Shakti.
Yeah.
2019, the year before COVID struck, Toolbox had already gone into remote volunteering. Okay, we changed. So it was a paradigm shift for us. When we started out in 2011, we said that volunteering, because what we do is like what the job of plumbers and electricians do, there's no emotive appeal in building a business plan and working on a HR document and so on. So
Yes.
the connect, the meeting, engaging one-on-one, face-to-face with volunteers was with our nonprofit partners was very important.
All
That
right.
was brilliant, but it had its limitations because we were largely restricted to working within the confines of metropolitan Mumbai. But the real need
Correct.
started emerging from organizations who were 2 hours away from Bombay. And
Yeah.
you can't keep transporting volunteers back and forth.
Yes.
So we said that let's go remote.
Hmm.
If we are able to build the sensitization, we are able to contextualize the problem, we are able to facilitate the engagement, and if we can deliver pertinent solutions for the nonprofits that we
Yes.
are partnering with, then we can actually go beyond working with 20 organizations at a time. And in 2019, we delivered in excess of 100 pro bono projects that year, all remote.
Right.
So we built our own platform. And here is where I see the future of volunteering and scale. You're going to have to leverage technology, but technology is your enabler, not your delivery agent. You
Right.
have to lace it with human engagement. You have to leverage AI. I actually visualize AI enabled scenario where you are able to, where every volunteer is taken through some sort of a gallery. They look at volunteering stories, what volunteering looks like, because our platform already has the do's and don'ts, the sensitization, the FAQs. Look at what AI can do today and augmented reality, which can therefore allow us to scale. So, whether we like it or not, we need to look at AI as the future. But I'm not promoting AI without the human interaction. And we need to remember that everything that we do, we never forget who is at the center of volunteering, which is the communities that we want to serve.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Vijaya. So, Ikuma-san, would you like to add to that? And can you share with us what's the experience in Japan? How are you looking at scaling volunteering in Japan? And
Yeah,
something
scaling.
that, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. To scale volunteering, I mean, by definition, it is not possible to push people compulsorily to
Yes.
do volunteering. So scaling is about the making a good environment for people to do volunteering. So for people to easily to go into the volunteering. So to make that, uh, there are, you should open up so many different types of alternatives to do volunteer. So if one organization is setting one menu of volunteering, just one mode of behavior for
Yes.
volunteering, there's only one way. But you can do pro bono, you can do some writing, or you can do some hard work, or you can
Right.
have 1 day or 1 month, or diverse types of uh, touch point can open up a easiness for to participate. And also the systemic change, when you talk about systemic change, like top management is also, they have to commit, like so the top management do some volunteer as a board of service for the non-profit organizations, or maybe the government sector will give some award to them, or so so many, so everyone feeling easy to do some volunteering is important thing. So connecting diverse sectors.
And do you also concur with Vijaya about the role of technology as to scale volunteering? Is that something that you see also as going to be very crucial for us to scale this effort?
See, I think our experience has shown that it can definitely allow us to increase and reach out to more organizations. Shakti, I don't like the word scale. Okay, in everything I avoid the word scale. For me,
That's come from
it's
the
not about
questioning.
correct.
All right, okay.
Fair enough. I think what I this is what I believe is what we started out. If there is a volunteer who has intent, and if there is a non-profit that needs support, Our job is to see how we can make that happen.
Bring
That's
that.
been my philosophy,
Okay.
right? I do believe that technology will aid. We never thought remote working was possible. And we
Yes.
never thought remote working productively was possible.
Yes.
So why not volunteering? Why can't we make that happen? Forget augmented reality and everything. What you need to bring two people together, and a Zoom call is a great way to bring two people together.
Yes.
Yes, I don't deny the experience and the energy exchanges of meeting in person. But in the absence of that, if there is an organization in Palghar and Ahmednagar and Jalgaon, and I
Yes.
have a volunteer sitting in Delhi, Hyderabad, and Coimbatore,
Yes.
technology can bring them together.
Right.
And I think we need to be open to embrace that. We've embraced it and it has worked. Uh, and we've been very mindful that accountability for us has not been driven by asking volunteers to log in, to fill in points that I did this, I did that, because they're
Right.
doing that in their day jobs already.
Yes.
They're checked on what time they log into the system. So we want to bring in mechanisms which drive ownership and accountability,
All right.
but not hounding them. That takes away the spirit of volunteering. It's a tough act,
All
but
right.
it's a balancing act.
Of
And
course.
we're all going to figure that way out. There are
All right.
no easy answers to it.
Excellent. Excellent. Ikuma-san, any last words on the technology bit? Is this something, what's your experience? We are almost at time, so we need to close now, but what's your view on the tech part in Japan?
I just simply agree with Vijaya. Tech is really important, but the center is human being. So
All right.
maybe
Okay,
I guess
excellent. Yeah, so I think we've come to the close of our webinar. I want to thank you both really from the bottom of my heart for having agreed to do this webinar. It's a topic which I think is not just because it was a personal interest to me, but because what we are seeing in our environment, volunteering can be such an amazing door opener, and it has such tremendous potential, to do good. So I'm, very glad that we've had this very enriching, discussion. For those of you who attended the webinar, and even for those who did not registered but could not attend, a copy of the recording will be made available in a few days from now. I don't have the time right now to summarize, but I can just say that very quickly that there was some very interesting things we heard about COVID-19, about Gen Z. We heard about the need for sustainability. Ikuma-san also, helped us with some new models of volunteering that are, emerging, and the role of connecting. I think that was like really, really very, very, very crucial. Yeah, so thank you once again, for our audience from different parts of India and different parts of the world for being here today. As a token of recognition of, your time, Vijaya and Ikuma-san, Shaktify is going to be planting 5 saplings for you in the state of Maharashtra. You will get an intimation from Sankalp Taru Foundation tomorrow. It's just a token of appreciation for, taking out your valuable time here to be with us today. And for all of you who've, been here today, once again, thank you very much for being here. Thank you, and do stay in touch. Goodbye, and bye for now.
Thank you, Shakti. Thank you, Ikuma-san. Thank you, everyone.